Morning, this is Lucid Totality. I'm Leah Wald and I'm here with Tyler Jenks. And this morning we're going to have a more thorough introduction to hyperwaves, and then we're going to talk more about Bitcoin market today. Tyler?
Hello everybody. As we said, this is our fifth vlog, and in the fifth we said we would start introducing some details about this thing that I call hyperwave. And as Bitcoin prices continue to struggle over the last month and a half, I think it's the appropriate time to add one layer of analysis that others have not been able to do. So we're going to start that today. And I'm going to start with a screen share where I show you something that I call the archetype hyperwave. So first thing I'm going to do is pull up a chart. Now what you're looking at is something that I constructed about almost 40 years ago, called a hyperwave. This is a chart of a hyperwave, and as you can see, it has 7 numbers from 1 through 4, 5, 6, and 7. Every hyperwave has these 7 elements. I call them phases. And what we're going to do in coming vlogs is take a look at each one of the phases of a hyperwave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and explain how you identify them, where they come from, how they are all alike in various ways. But the best way of doing this, I believe, today is I'm going to give you 2 real examples of hyperwaves. The first one is International Harvester, the agricultural machine company. And I'm going to flip back and forth just a couple of times between the archetype, in other words, the model of all hyperwaves, and this particular one. You can quickly begin to recognize the movement of a hyperwave from the model to the actual. Now, I'll make a couple of comments about hyperwaves. This particular one occurred, if you can read these tiny dates, between 1924, during the Roaring '20s, and the peak in 1929. And then it took another 4 years before the hyperwave completed itself. So altogether from 1923 through 1932, almost 9 years, with this building up from less than $10 to over $140, or a 14 times explosion in price. I'm going to show you one other hyperwave right now, which is more recent. Many of you remember this one, lived through it. This is the NASDAQ, the dot-com bubble. This one was much larger, actually started back in the late 1960s, the 80s, ran up in the 1990s, and then became a full-blown hyperwave at its peak at 5,000, after running up almost 15 times, 15x in a fairly short period of time. Again, I'm going to show you the archetype and then the actual NASDAQ. And you will notice all of these phases that I talked about: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6, and phase 7. I've got about 200 examples of these, and we will go through many of them because they vary to a certain extent, but all of them move in these same 7 waves. Take a look at International Harvester again. Take a look at the NASDAQ.com bubble. That's why I think this is so important for everyone to understand. Bitcoin and several other cryptocurrencies are in hyperwaves. And remember, we're talking about very long time periods. Bitcoin has been around for 10 years. So it qualifies in terms of the archetype of going years, not months or weeks or quarters. Almost all technical analysis is based on the immediate past, the present, with some projections about the immediate future. And it's very difficult to use short-term trading techniques, RSIs and MACDs, and even some of these great systems like the sequential or the TD system or the random number generator. Things like Elliott Wave. Elliott Wave has the ability to track very long time periods, but the use of it for a trader or for an investor or for a speculator is to be able to bring it right up to the present. One of the most important things about a hyperwave is, as you're in it, you know that large changes are coming that you can anticipate because they move in such a knowable fashion through these 7 waves. So at any point in time, you know exactly where you stand, and you don't have to use a lot of other techniques to know what the underlying strength or weakness is. So that is our brief introduction today to hyperwaves. In each of the next number of vlogs we do, we will use more and more examples, including the Japanese stock market, the gold and the silver market, the sugar and the cocoa market, plus a number of other stock markets and commodities around the world over long periods of time, right up to the present day. I think this will be a very useful tool for everyone.